Hello and welcome to the Erica Latrice Show, your one-stop shop for inspiration. And I say it like that because we have taken such a break, so it's just exciting to be back. But I'm telling you, it's worth it today because my special guest in the Be Inspired Cafe has such a tremendous testimony of overcoming. She is such a powerhouse. I can't wait to get into it, but you have just a second. So if you want to participate, now is a great time to grab your notepad, get ready to drop some comments, be a part of the conversation because today's show, I believe, is going to be life changing. For so many of you, it is not a coincidence that you're watching. So don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're jumping straight into the Be Inspired Cafe with my special guest. So stay tuned to find out who that is. We'll be right back.
I spent years living all the way in the box, afraid to step out, afraid to truly grab hold of my dream. And now I am breaking through, and I invite you to join me.
Your breakthrough starts now. Coming up on today's show, get ready to be inspired and transformed with our featured guests. Find out what's trending and get advice on life's daily challenges with Erica's top tips of the day. All of this and so much more coming up. So stay tuned. This is your one-stop shop for inspiration. The Erica Latrice Show. And now, here's your host, Erica.
All right, welcome back. So as promised, my special guest today in the Be Inspired Cafe has such a beautiful spirit. She is on a mission to help women like you take off the labels and the limits that can keep you stuck in life cycles. And she is determined to help you step into a life that is more fulfilling. Now, let me tell you, not only does she do this for others, she is a living, walking, breathing testimony of everything that she teaches. So welcome with me into the Be Inspired Cafe powerhouse, Mary Hooks. How are you doing today, Mary?
Hello, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on your show, Erica.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. If y'all can't tell by my excitement, because Mary, when we first connected, one of the things that I shared with you is that you're just so genuine. You have such a beautiful spirit, a beautiful passion, and I know people can see that and think that it's easy. So, just in case they're thinking that, can you just kick us off? Just tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Yes, so it's not easy, although, I smile from a genuine place and that all comes from the Lord. But a little about me, I experienced some things. So as an adolescent, I struggled with insecurity and low self-esteem. I didn't think I was pretty enough. I've always been very petite and I would get teased and stuff for that. So, I was struggling. I didn't fit in, all those things the kids deal with. And so it discouraged me. It made me start to just take the wrong turn, doing anything for attention, which led me down a life of destruction. And so I began to get involved in drugs and alcoholism. I got pregnant with my beautiful daughter at 15 years old. I also got introduced to prostitution and exotic dancing. And so that led me into domestic violence situations. So the smile you see today and the genuine spirit that you see today, it is nothing but the grace of God that I'm still here and I'm in my right mind. And so I'm just grateful.
Well, I'm grateful to have you because even that, like the way that you share your story is so beautiful because I believe that we live in a time where there are so many highlight reels. We got social media making people feel inadequate, not good enough, comparisons. And you just show up from such a place of this is what it is, but this is why I'm smiling before you today. So I want to talk a little bit about the self-esteem and the confidence because I believe that's something that so many people face even if we don't always admit it. I can think of 1,000 of my own stories and insecurities and things that I've showed up. But I would love for you to kind of talk about maybe some signs when we're dealing with that insecurity and that low self-esteem. What are some ways that we can start to recognize that in ourselves?
Yeah, so we can start to recognize it by comparison. So that looks like, as a child, I know it looked like a lot of comparison, like, well, they look like that, or their body shape is like this. And so you have to think, I'm about in the 7th grade, I'm not starting to develop, and all the other girls were. So it was a lot of comparison, like, well, why is she like that? And I'm still, like this. And it's also like not thinking you're good enough. And that can just simply come from, not being affirmed, because we do need to be affirmed. And being told that you're beautiful, and that you're pretty, or you're smart, or whatever the case may be, we need those words of affirmation. So if you're not getting those words of affirmation, then it makes you guess, like, what's wrong with me? Is something wrong with me because I don't hear anybody telling me that I'm good enough or I'm beautiful?
That right there, that the comparisons, like just starting with that. I know again, I talk about like just the environment that we all are exposed to now. It's easy to get into the scrolling and get into the, well, this person is this far along and then I'm not. And I think it's important that we recognize it when it's happening, because sometimes we can just hear like, don't compare yourself to anyone else. My daughter finishes my sentence all the time when I say, girl, you don't fit in. She's like, because I was meant to stand out. Like, okay, I get it. However, from a practical standpoint, it's not always so easy to just stop. There are quite a few things that I know I've started to implement. But what were some of those things that you notice now that you do differently that you were doing back then?
I would say just accepting who I am. Honestly, if I can be truly transparent, it was only like once I built my relationship with Christ, that's when I discovered like I'm enough. Why? Because he created me this way. The way I look, the way I talk, because for a long time I didn't like my voice. And so I'm like, I sound so squeaky, and why do I sound like this? And even now people like, can I speak with Mary? And I'm like, this is she, but I sound like a kid, as they would say. So it brought about a lot of like questioning myself. I wouldn't talk back then. So it took me to a place where God had to show me, Mary, you are enough. I designed you just like this with your petite body. I designed you with this squeaky voice. Like, I made you who you are. And in him, we are enough. Like, the world can never satisfy. First of all, the world will never be satisfied. I don't care what you look like, how much money you make, what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you live in. Somebody is always going to do better than you. Somebody is always not going to agree with the way you look, the way you sound, the way you deliver your message. Like, you can never satisfy the world. So you have to be so whole in God that, you don't even get to a place of comparison, because you know who you are in him.
That right there, we could like end on that note, because I think like what you just said is so powerful for us to understand, because sometimes it's just an identity crisis. And when we don't know who our identity is in, and it's for me and you, and we talk about this is rooted in Christ. And so it's almost like when we think about an artist creating a masterpiece, no one else really has the right to put the price on that masterpiece but the creator. And too often we let store goers, shoppers, customers, consumers determine our value and our price, when our creator is who created this masterpiece. And that's truly God is the only one that can determine our value, our worth, our identity. So I'm like, look, you just said a whole word with that. So one of the things too that I think that is so necessary when we start thinking about our identity, our worth, and our confidence is being able to boldly step into it. And what I think can prevent us from that is too often we get dwelled and stuck on our past mistakes, the areas that we fell short. And I feel like you just use everything as like a stepping stone to keep going. So tell us just a little bit about that for that person that maybe they're dealing with so much condemnation and they've made so many mistakes they can't see the light to keep going.
Yeah. So here's the thing about the past. And the mistakes that we make. It happened. We can't go back to yesterday. We can't go back to 5 minutes from now, so it's like, it can't be undone, but you can use that as a lesson. And so in life, we always have to find the lessons. We have to learn the lessons in everything and understand that, yeah, I may have did some things that was, wild or unpleasing, or just downright nasty. But I can't do anything about that. But who I am today is greater than who I was yesterday or 5 minutes ago. That doesn't matter. It's the past. So if we continue to look forward and we continue to just make progression and keep moving, then we don't even have to worry about the past. Like, it doesn't matter. It's really like no guilt, no shame, no condemnation. And then the way that I'm able to stand on my story the way I am, because I like to say people don't have a heaven or hell to put me in. And so my job is to only live a life that is pleasing to Christ. And so no matter what people say about me or say about the past mistakes that I've made, it doesn't make me or it doesn't break me. But you know what I've learned? If you know my past and you try to throw it up in my face, you will have to say she served a mighty God, because the Mary that I remember from that nasty, dirty past, that's not the Mary that I see today. And so he gets the glory out of even my mistakes, even my pain and my trauma and my, my failure. He still is glorified.
Whew, I love it, because I feel like I used to say this too. If people keep reminding you or they're stuck in your past, just let them stay there. But that doesn't mean you have to stay there. Like,
Right.
just let them hang out with the past. And I feel like one of the things that just inspires me so much about your walk, about your testimony, about your story is that you're unapologetic about that. Because to your point, that's all the more reason that God gets the glory out of what we've been able to, go
Yes.
through
Yes.
and overcome. So I want to talk a little bit about making that decision to now step out, because now not only are you stepping out, you're reaching back and you're helping other people overcome some of the very things that were challenged by. So what was that moment? What was like that light bulb moment that you knew it was in your purpose, your vision, your walk to now start going back and helping other people?
Yeah. So I always wonder, like, God, why am I still here? I was involved in prostitution and all this stuff, and a lot of people don't make it out of that lifestyle. So I'm like, but you kept me here. And so I'm like, what is it so special about me? Or what is it that I need to do? Because you still have me here. You still have breath in my body. I'm live. I'm able. I'm in my right mind, first of all, because with traumatic experiences, you can really become insane. But he kept me. And so I'm like, God, if you kept me here, there must be purpose. And the whole time I was in my mess, see, this is why I say catch the nuggets in everything. Because the whole time I was going through that, I was helping people even in that lifestyle. I was speaking to girls and encouraging them even in that lifestyle while I was going through too. And so he was, the whole time I was already boldly, helping people, but he just allowed me to come through the process so that I could continue to get stronger in it. And it could be more effective because I'm no longer in that place, but I'm reaching back. And so it was about 2018 when I published my first book, Be Completely Comfortable with the Unique Way God Made You. And that was like, boom, here it is. Here's my story. Everything that I experienced is in that book. There's nothing, I didn't sugarcoat anything. I just told it. And when I did that and I forgave myself, it was like a weight that was lifted off of me. And see, we can keep our past bottled up in us, and it keeps us bound, because although we're not there anymore physically, we can still be bound within us. But when I wrote that book and it released in 2018, it was like a total, like just a freedom. And God was like, go forth. And so from that point, I just started to tell, my story, because at this point it's on the shelf. It's in Barnes and Noble. It's in Walmart. Like, it's out there. And so I did that for self-healing, not knowing that it was going to heal other people. But that was really like my release, to be open and honest.
This, like, the forgiveness. It's the forgiveness for me. Like, because I know usually when we hear forgiveness, most people think it's all about forgiving others. And you know this just through what you do in speaking and coaching and hearing other people's stories. What I find more often is that we get stuck. We can forgive everyone else, love on everybody else, be kind, give them grace, high five them, encourage them with a word from on high. But we're so hard, so hard on ourselves. So can you just talk a little bit about like recognizing if we do have an issue like with self-forgiveness, if we're kind of wrestling with that, how can we identify it?
Yeah, that's a great question. You can actually identify it by, it keeps you stuck. So you can be like, okay, I forgave, a parent or a sibling because of this, something they did, but you can still hold on to a part of it. And so it keeps you stuck. Every time you think about, making a difference in your life, moving forward, really stepping out and, just really being who you are called to be, because we know we're called to be something greater. It's a pull that you have within. But when you haven't forgiven yourself for allowing those things to happen to you and putting yourself in some situations, because everything is not the devil. We make decisions that put us in dark places. And if we don't forgive ourselves for saying, hey, Mary, you have to forgive yourself for allowing yourself to be with a man that was abusing you. You know, that takes a lot of courage, because now I'm not blaming the man that was abusing me. I'm talking to me. This is like Mary versus Mary. And that's where people suffer. They don't want to face themselves. But I'm telling you, the breakthrough is in facing yourself.
If my audio could still come through with me throwing my mic, I would throw it. That right. You said me versus me. And yes, so many times we can look at the other person, and again, to your point, like we forgive them or we identify that situation, but until we get to that place where we can take our own ownership, yes, of our role, that's the only time that we really can love on ourselves. So you have something that's coming out that the audience can get a hold of. I want to talk about that in a second. We're going to take a short break. Y'all listen, if you are encouraged by anything that Mary, I'm encouraged by everything that you have been talking about, but drop your favorite quote right now. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to go a little deeper into Mary's story. And she also has a fun resource, not just fun. This is a powerful life-shifting resource that you all can get your hands on. So stay here. We'll be right back, and we're going to get a little deeper.
Get your copy of my all-new book, Finish, where you can transform your life and get projects done in as little as 7 days. Go to ericalatrice.com.
All right. So sometimes I have to take a little pause because it's like, whew, I feel like I'm just feeding on this. It's like getting a little food going. So one of the things, Mary, that I believe too, that you, when you talk about like that me versus me, it's also that ownership. And sometimes like, I feel like we live in a time where most people, it's not even that they don't want to take that ownership. When something traumatic or tragic has happened to you, people that mean well are like, girl, forget him. It wasn't your fault. Let it go. Yeah. So how can we find even, in your opinion, that balance to know when we need to be taking ownership and giving ourselves that ability to get released from those situations? How do we find that balance?
I would say it should be a daily thing, because every day we make choices, every day we do life, right? And so daily you should look over your life and say, okay, if something went wrong today, what part did I play in it? See, getting into the prostitution world and having my daughter and getting pregnant, those were decisions I made. I chose to get in bed with someone. I chose to say, yes, I will. I'm down to do this. You know what I'm saying? And so when you go day by day saying, okay, what did I do? What decision did I make? What choice did I make? Because we have choices in life. We can choose. And so when you reflect daily or weekly or however convenient it is for you, when things are happening that you like, hey, I didn't like the results of that, but how did I contribute to that? So if it's like, oh, I stayed on the phone for 4 hours talking about nothing or listen to my friend complain. Okay, well, and I didn't know how to tell her that I didn't want to talk about this. Okay, well, you answered the phone. That's how you contributed to it, right? And so then it's self-reflection. My point here is when we look at ourselves and don't blame everybody else, because we have the power, we have the authority to allow people access to us. We control what we do with our time. We control what we do with our energy. We control all of that. And so when we allow those things to happen and then all chaos break loose, we have to say, hey, Mary, you allowed that to happen. So fix that. So next time, don't do that. It's about grabbing the nuggets throughout life. I've learned in life, you have to literally take everything as a lesson. And that's how you grow. And that's how you become better.
She said, well, then why did you answer the phone? Mary, I'm like, that's so good. I want to talk too about that balance, because I know that everyone that's watching right now, you may or may not even be a believer. You may not be seeking God first, in your actions. But I want to speak to that because I believe that is how you approach life, Mary. And where is that balance of um, making those decisions and then making sure that you're also keeping God at the forefront to know that you're doing his will? Like that decision. I want to talk about the phone call really quick so I can make this specific. You know, I feel like some people will carry that guilt of, but we're called to, you know, serve, or we're called to love. So I have to listen to that friend for 4 hours, or, you know, like finding that balance too of our role and God's role in our decisions and how we approach. So what are your thoughts on that?
Wow, that's amazing. I was just speaking about this. So we're not God, but God allow us to experience things. So like I said, we can reach back and help people. The word of God also says, my sheep know my voice, and a stranger they will not follow. And so I say this to say that if somebody calls your phone and they know, wow, Mary is powerful, I've seen her life, I see how God moves through her life. Or if they're not a believer and they're just like, the joy Mary has, the peace Mary has, like, I know she has the right words. Sometimes people just want you to give them words of encouragement to make them feel better. But if you cut that conversation, you can let people vent. We are able to listen to people vent, but you got about 20 minutes to vent to me. And then I'm going to suggest some action steps that you can take to make the situation better. Because what I will not do is have a pity party with anybody, because I am an example of get up and go forth. And so I don't make excuses for people. There was no excuse made for me. Although God delivered and set me free and brought me out, I still had to get up and do some work. I still have to get up and daily make choices that's going to better my life, better my children, protect my peace of mind. And so after that 20 minutes of venting is over, and I say, okay, well, look, you can do this way, or how about trying this, and you don't want to hear it and you want to just keep complaining. At that point, okay, I love you and I hope everything works out for you, but you don't want help. You want to just dump all this stuff. You want me to have a pity party, or you want an emotional dump on me. And for my own sanity and for my own peace of mind and for my spiritual walk, I can't do that.
Mary, you trying to make me leave. You trying to make me just like take off running. Okay. So I want to talk about this too. I think that ownership, like I feel like we are called to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. There is like that balance of when we're seeking God. It's like, I think Paul used the example of it was Paul. He said, you're looking in the mirror, you see what's going on, but you don't do anything to fix it. The faith without works is dead.
It's dead.
So I want to talk about that too, like through that season where you went through deliverance and you went through making that about face that this way wasn't going to work anymore. I'm doing something different. What was that process like for you? Or what would you even say to someone else who may be in the middle of that process, their self trying to get out of a lifestyle that they no longer want to be a part of?
Okay, yeah. So my deliverance process, as far as like me coming out of the street life, I quit drugs, cold turkey, and all of that stuff. Like God really delivered me. But the process of getting back up and now transforming my life, because now I have to do things differently. I have to live a normal life. I'm not in the fast life anymore. It was it was not easy. And a lot of people get scared of transformation and growing because it's not easy. It's uncomfortable. It's painful. You cry. Why? Because your flesh is dying. Why? Because your old habits aren't being satisfied anymore. And so it's going to be a process. It's just like a drug addict coming off of drugs. They go through that, what is it called? Withdrawal. They have those withdrawals and things like that. So their body is like trembling and shaking. It's uncomfortable. It's like, what are you doing to me? So I went through that phase, but it wasn't for drugs. It was just like, okay, Mary, well, now you have to find a regular job, so now you have to be a mom to your daughter that you have. So it was all different. It was unfamiliar. It was a lot of moments when I was like, man, can I do this? I was questioning, can I do this? Is this even possible for me? But I was so determined to do better and be better. Like when you get tired of going in cycles and being stuck, you get up and do something about it. It's not going to be easy. And so I speak to man or woman, whoever you are that's watching this, and you're like, okay, I see that's not working and I want to do something different. Those first months, and I'll say give yourself about the first 5 months, it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to cry because it's not the usual way of doing things. Um, but keep going because there's greater for you. But you have to die to the old version of yourself.
Mary, if you can't hear me, I'm like, yes, that part. Because I think that's that part about the me versus me. It literally is this whole episode today. That too often we put our breakthrough, we put our next step, we put what God can do in our life in the hands of someone. Like I said, that's the shop or the consumer. They're not the creator. They didn't create you. You are a masterpiece. You are fearfully, wonderfully made, like
Yes.
God created you. So we have to stop looking to other people to get us through this life, literally. And you just, I feel like you summed that up. So I know that you have a lot of resources available. You put out such amazing, encouraging messages. So,
Thank
for
you.
those that want to just get connected with you, learn a little more about you, what's the best way that we can support you, and what do you have coming up for us right now?
Yeah, so and thank you for allowing me to even share that. So I do have a forgiveness journal. And you can get that directly from my website at sheovercomer.com altogether. It should be on the screen as well. But if you go there, you can get my forgiveness journal. It's downloadable. And I suggest that you get that for your first step because like I said, it's self-reflection. And a lot of times, as I said, when I wrote my book, it was a way of forgiving and freeing myself so that I can step off into, this new version of me because I'm nothing like I used to be. But definitely forgiving yourself. So get that resource. I'm also a life coach. And I just help women who are like, look, Mary, I'm tired of going in cycles. I am ready to do better, be the best version of myself, take these limits and labels off of me, die to people pleasing, all of that, and just be the best you that you can be. So if you're ready to take action and you're like, okay, I know that this is possible, I can see myself as a better version of myself, then you can also go to my website, schedule a break free call with me. The link is there and we will talk, have a conversation, a consult. But I am a life coach. And so I have a 4-week program and an 8-week program to really help you transform and do the work. And I want to leave this nugget just like, or this little note for the woman that's like, I'm ready. If you're ready to do the work, you will see results. But if you don't put any work in, no matter how many videos you listen to, no matter what you do, if you're not ready to take action, you will not get any results. And so my coaching program is all about action, and we're not blaming anybody else, but we're digging deep within ourselves and taking off the lid and the limits.
You had better preach. She said, look, sis, bro, if you're not ready to take action, Mary, I love how unapologetic you are about that. And I think it's just so true because we can get into, I call it spiritual and mental obesity, where we're just eating and eating and eating, but we're not doing any exercise. We're not executing anything. We're not carrying it out. And we just getting like big old heads filled
Yeah.
with all of this knowledge, but no action. So I just want to say thank you. I was going to ask if you have a final note, but I will ask you this. Do you have like a favorite quote that you live by, favorite verse, or anything that you can encourage us with today as we wrap up?
Yes. Well, my favorite verse is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you an expected future. But the quote I would like to leave you all with in my own words is just simply trust God and obey the voice of God. When he gives you instruction, you have to be like, I'm going to do it no matter what. Because, see, in him, it's unfamiliar, it's uncertain. And so there's no plan B. And you just have to trust that Jeremiah 29 is his promise. And so if his promise is to prosper you and not to harm you, obey the instructions he give you and watch how your life transform.
Mike, drop. If y'all listen, if you only implement like 2% of what you talked about today, Mary, you're on the right track, because I believe that this is it. It's time out to just keep eating and sitting back and getting inspired and getting motivated and getting motivated. It's time to take action. Obedience is better than sacrifice. So,
Amen.
Mary, thank you so much. I'm like hugging you for being up here. Yes, you know I love you, and
I love you too.
Yes, thank you. And those of you that are watching, the best way that you can support is just share. If you know someone that can be encouraged today, tell someone, tag someone, and share today's episode. Y'all can stay connected with me across social media at Erica Empowers. As I'm always telling you, go out and make today. We just told you, it doesn't matter what happened yesterday, even this morning, your past is your past. Go out and make today amazing, because it's absolutely a choice. Thanks for watching. Y'all take care.
For more inspiration, visit us online at Erica Latrice.